next, assessment tools to measure authentic learning performance and product. The authentic evaluation is a test that measures real-life tasks, performance, and actual products. The most common of authentic assessments are the performance assessment and the use of portfolio, also used to assess learning outcomes in PPUP. So if you mean authentic learning, it is an instructional approach that allows students to explore, discuss, and construct concepts and relationships in content. Earlier, I discussed the levels of assessment, and now let's talk about how the learning outcomes is evaluated and assessed. With the use of performance assessment tools, in this topic, we can now make the criteria to judge and observe the capability of student. So the first performance assessment tool would be the checklist. Checklist is a tool that consists of a list of qualities that are expected to be observed as present or absent. So example, checklist on the use of microscope. Instruction: observe the student in the laboratory activity with the use of microscope. Check the items which you have seen, which you have done appropriately, and mark X items which are not appropriately done. So checklist also mean to measure the ability of student to know what is given or not in the topic. Also, si teacher makabalo kung asa ang student mag-lisod. And si teacher will make a way para ma-understand the student ang topic. Number 2, rating scale. Rating scale is a tool that uses a scale in a number line as a basis to estimate the numerical value of a performance or a product. The value is easier to score if the points are in whole numbers. So the most popular rating scale is Likert scale. For example, rating scale for a science project. So instruction on a scale 1 to 10, as the 1 as the lowest and the 10 as the highest. So rate the projects on the following statement. So circle the choice of your answer. In this case, you are now being tested on how you had understand the value of each purpose. Based on the rating scale, it is also the indicator kang teacher kung asa ka nagkulang and will make it improve sa next project nga pagahimuon. Number 3, rubrics for portfolio. It's a compilation of the experiences as authentic learning outcomes presented with the evidence and reflections to assess the total learning experiences as presented in a holistic package. An assessment tool called a rubric is utilized. So this is an example of rubric for FS portfolio. In this diagram shows the descriptive words on how the rubric would critique a learner's outcome. So from domains, 80 as the lowest judgment shows the description and learners need to improve the output that is admitted. And 100 as the highest that shows the complete and needed requirement for the metrics given in the field study portfolio. So in field study portfolio, the number 1 is the content of the portfolio, or the title and content matter. Number 2, objectives of the portfolio, or the desired learning outcome of the study. Number 3, the quality of entries, or the condition of content, kung klaro ba or dili ang sa study. Number 4, presentation of entries, on how is the presentation is clean. So, and number 5, of course, the promptness of submission or the deadline set o ahead ba or dili ang pagpasa. So that's how the rubric for the study portfolio is criticized. So in short, checklist, rating skills, and rubrics are tools that state specific criteria and allow teachers and students para makakuha og information. And also, these tools can make judgments about what students know and can do in related sa outcomes nga gihatag.
Levels of assessment for the levels of learning outcomes. The levels of assessment is the description of the levels of learning outcomes, which are knowledge, process or skill, understanding products or performance. The levels of learning outcomes are also used to describe the levels of assessment. In this part, levels of assessment of a learner can be evaluated on what the learner has learned about the lessons and activities that the teacher has given to it. The levels of learning outcomes can be determined with the rubrics given. Learning outcome assessments. Level 1, knowledge, can be determined through assessment of 4W and 1H. The who, what, when, how, and why, and can be done through pencil and paper written assessment or non-paper and pencil type assessment or oral assessment. Assessment percentage value is 15%. Next is the process and skill level 2 learning outcomes. In this level, the learner already understands the knowledge. The learner can construct now an idea based on the knowledge and can be done through written assessment or oral assessment. The assessment percentage of level 2 is 25%. In the third level of learning outcomes or assessment is the understanding, which can be done through explaining, interpreting, and applying the knowledge obtained. It can be assisted through written type of assessment. It has 30% value in assessment. And in the last part of level of outcomes and assessment is the level 4, product and performance, which can be determined by applying the knowledge and ideas we obtain from the given activity in real life situation we face every day. We can achieve the assessment through checklist, rating skill method, and it has 30% value in assessment. Placing value to the assessment result from KPUP. The 4 levels may be employed in the formative assessment, but the result is not recorded. So this assessment can be done through weekly quizzes, short quiz or long quiz that the teacher will be give. Then KPUP format is required for summative assessment, which are recorded for grading purposes. So KPUP format is for summative assessment that is need for grading purposes. Then the computed value for the 4 levels of assessment will be described according to the value of the computed scores of the students. The interval scale of computed 4 levels of learning outcomes are given level of proficiency description. So, interval scale can be determined through the total percentage from the 4 levels of learning outcomes. Then, classified by the interval scale number. To this, you can determine now the level of proficiency description. First is beginning. Has total percentage of 75 and above. Next is developing. It has total percentage of 75 up to 79. Then approaching proficiency. It has total percentage of 80 to 84. Next is proficient. It has 85 up to 89. Total percentage. And lastly, the advanced has 90 and above total percentage. Placing value to the assessment results in new grading system. Debit order number 8 since 2015. While the KPUP is still utilized in the new grading system, it is important to know that debit order number 8 has modified the grading system as follows. Grades at the end of the quarter or grading period, kindergarten use of checklist, anecdotal records, and portfolios used instead of numerical grades, which are based on kindergarten curriculum guides. Grade 1 to grade 12, the following guidelines should be followed. Learners are graded on 3 components every quarter. A is for written work, B for performance task, C for quarterly test. For example is the table beside. Grade level is grade 1 to grade 10. Components are written work, performance task, quarterly exam. Subjects are language, AP, and ESP. It has 30% of written work, 30% of performance task, and 20% for quarterly exam. Science and math. It has 40% of written work, 40% of performance task, and 20% for quarterly exam. MAPI, ESP, and TLE, it has 20% of written work, 60% of performance tasks, and 20% for quarterly exam. The total is 100%. These components are given specific weights that vary. All grades are based on the weight row score of learners' summative assessments. The minimum grade need is 60, which when transmuted based on the table is equivalent to 75 in the report card. Written work may include items in level 1, the knowledge, and level 3, the understanding in the KPUP. Next is the performance task may include items in level 2, process skills, and level 4, products and performance. The third one is quarterly exam included all levels 1 to 4. How are grades computed at the end of the school year? For kindergarten, checklist, anecdotal records, and portfolios are presented to the parents at the quarter for discussion. For grade 1 to grade 10, the average of each quarter grades produce the end of the year grade. Next is the general average is computed by dividing the sum of all the final grades by the total numbers of learning areas. Each learning area has equal weight. How grades computed at the end of the school year? For grade 11 and grade 12, the average of the quarterly grade produce the semestral grade. The general average is computed by the dividing the sum of all final grades by the total numbers of learning. Reporting summative grade by the quarter and summative grade at the end of the year. This modifies the previous descriptions of the performance in KUP. The values and descriptors are reported to parents every quarter and the end of the year. Grading scale based on transmuted values. 90 up to 100. Descriptor, outstanding, 85 up to 89, very satisfactory, 80 to 84 is satisfactory, 75 to 79 is fairly satisfactory, below 75 did not meet the expectation.